It was about 2 months after the accident that the plastic surgeon came to see me. He wanted to talk to me about my face. He said, Mitchell, literally your face has been burned off. We're going to have to give you a new one. What did you look like before the fire? Could you describe yourself? Do you have any photos from home? And I couldn't remember any pictures from home particularly. Has anybody here ever tried to describe themselves to somebody else? They call you on the phone, what do you look like? And you say, well, I remember specifically what I told the doctor. I said, I was very handsome. In fact, I looked a lot like Tom Cruise. If you could just make me look like him again, everything will be just fine. Unfortunately, at that moment, my other wonderful, just magnificent nurse, June Fulbright, I spoke a few years ago for the critical care nurses. I'm going to be at the operating room nurses in New Orleans for those of you who will be there in a couple months. And I spoke for the critical care nurses. And there on the front row center sat June Fulbright as my invited guest. 19 years after she had picked me up when I fell down. And June remembered my wallet survived the fire, and she dug it out of a drawer, and of course the doctor rummaged through it. Naturally, the first thing he found was the driver's license, the pass book for the South Africans in the group, and he took it out, and he looked at it for a moment or two, and then looked back at me, lying in bed, completely immobile. It hurt every time I moved, so I stayed still. And then he looked back down at the driver's license again, and when he looked up at me, I was wondering what was in his mind. You particularly would know there are no mirrors in burn patients' rooms. Hadn't seen myself yet. I didn't know what I looked like. Finally, he took one last long look at the driver's license, shook his head and said, God, I know we can do better than this. And they did. Well, I've seen a few of your driver's licenses, okay? You know what I mean? Huh? You know, that was the first time in this whole unwelcome, unwanted change in my life, the first time in this whole ordeal that I was able to laugh at myself. For the first time, I think I began to gain just a little bit of perspective, a little idea, the curtains parted ever so slightly on what the future might hold for me. It was in that moment that I began to sow the seeds of the message that I'm so pleased that Joanne has invited me to come and share with all of you today. It's not what happens to you. It's what you do about it. Life happens. Stuff happens. That's all part of the deal.